And I expect us to also learn from the correction. So please listen attentively. Thank you very much.
So we picked out 7 points as asked. First of all, we talked of empathy. While interviewing the victim or the survivor, we decided that the first thing to do is to show empathy. We know what happened to you, and we're with you, and we want your story we want you to give us your story so that it can help others to come out of the terrible things and trauma they've been through. So the second one is reassurance. We are going to reassure her that she's safe, nothing is going to happen to her, and her story will also make others to come out to tell their own story, so that the society at large will be helped. Then we decided that we won't ask insensitive questions. It's going to be avoided, so that she will feel free with us to share her experiences. And we decided that there should be an eye contact. That should be established, so that she should know that we are concentrating on her and we know what she is telling us is important, and we are with her.
So for this one about eye contact, if you notice that as you are, concentrating on the victim, that is making them a bit uncomfortable, right? Don't be too intense with your concentration. Just adjust accordingly. But at the same time, don't be distracted by other things when you are talking to somebody telling you about a sensitive event in their life. Thank you very much. They've been so accurate so far. Please listen to them.
We decided that there shouldn't be any interruption when she is narrating her story. We believe that we shouldn't press her too much when asking questions. If she feels free to answer, then good and fine. If she's not comfortable with answering our questions, we let it be. Then focus on the survivor. Yes, our focus should be on the survivor, not the attacker or the listener or whoever is going to get to the story, but the survivor herself. So, secondly, the second question, we wrote a short story. It's a short feature about surviving sexual, gender-based violence, whatever.
This is it also, right? Yeah.
So we started this week. What is the world turning into? The society has to wake up from the long slumber and fight against injustices and all kinds of abuse against humanity. Aisha, not her real name, a 16-year-old is a victim and also a survivor of rape, and was also, Aisha, not her real name, a 16-year-old is a survivor of rape. She was also drugged by her attackers, but despite what she went through, Aisha chooses to be a strong and determined. Her story as follows. While coming back from school, a car stopped and 3 gentlemen were in the car. One of them, who lives in my neighborhood, told me to get into the car because I looked so tired and hungry, and they would drop me at home. Immediately I entered the car. One of them blew a powdered substance on my face, and that was all I could remember at that time. After a long while, I woke up in an empty room with the 3 men all laying down naked beside me. I then realized that they had their bad ways with me while I was unconscious. They also continued taking turns in raping me while I regained consciousness. I shouted, struggled, and begged them not to, but they beat me up and continued with their devilish act. I begged them to kill me rather than deprive me of my pride as a woman, but no one listened to me. Even though Aisha was taken to a rehabilitation center, for counseling and therapy, she still suffers the traumatic effect of the incident. Due to what happened to Aisha, her friends and classmates were scared of going to school and coming back home, thinking similar acts will be perpetrated on them. Is this how the society will allow this negative vibe or negative trend to disrupt the lives of their children and wards? The community needs to wake up and fish out the bad eggs amongst them. The government should put more effort at alleviating poverty by providing school buses to various communities. A word is enough for a while.
Okay, thank you. Hello, thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you.
I mean, I didn't talk thank you. I mean, I hired you, but you are not clapping for us. What kind of
As a follow-up
You are on call. There is no more.
Clap for you 5 times.
Next training, you can read it through your Facebook. You can share it with people.
Abdul.
I can read. Where's your phone?
Inda wanda aka fara daga je wani
Kema wifi kina wifi yeah and every time you join net connected
Kada ka manta, da ya kwaɗe shi.
Are we to wait for the next to restore the light?
Yeah.
Wait, because of that video.
Can you see?
No, it's a bit darker.
We clap for them to be no clapping for them.
Good afternoon, gentlemen of the press. We are standing here before you. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, good afternoon. Standing here before you are representative of Group 4, yes, of this program. My name is Nasir Muhammad Oziri. I'm going to be the lead anchor of the program. We have identified 7 best practices of survival-sensitive reporting, and we have written them down and studied them, and we have applied them in our work. In the next story, and what we have observed is that the most important, because the more a lecturer or a coordinator is repeating something, it means it's very important. So from what we understand is that you value empathy. So in writing any story about SGBDs, we realize that empathy is the most cardinal in this work. So we take the approach as it's supposed to be, with caution and with acceptance of the victim. So we don't do anything stupid unless we have the green light. And the second one is that we do not ask questions that implies doubt of survival sensitivity. So this is also considered in the job, and we always explain things to them before proceeding. We can't just do things ahead or to be rude. We always.
An example of explaining something to them.
When we want to ask something like before starting the interview, the first thing we do is that we say, please just give me 2 minutes. I will explain something to you. The first thing is that, please, this is not by force. You have the right to decline this interview. Are you sure that you are freely willing to divulge or to take this position as a victim and to speak to the media and to take this? And we tell her that if you speak, there are people like you out there, they are living in danger of rape and they are keeping silent and the perpetrators are increasing. So maybe you will help to raise awareness to other people. Then most of them, by this information, this explanation mostly give the victim comfort to speak. So this is it. And the other one is that don't be in a hurry if they are. Yes, awkward silence. So sometimes when remembering horrible experience, it is natural and it is psychological for somebody to take some time to grieve for some things or to settle some memories to talk. So you have to give him time. Sometimes they will even sober and they will cry. So they will have to. Then you wait for them. Maybe after some few minutes, if you continue, you keep nodding, telling her by her watching that you are watching her and you are understanding and you understand what she's going through. So it's another, and don't use harsh words. We always use polite words because most of the victims you find out that they are underage. So age is very important thing to consider, especially in response or in presenting your questions. So the questions are mostly polite. Would you like to start talking to us? What do you remember from that horrible incident or experience of yours? Can you please, all these kind of things that will be polite, you'll be placing the sentence in a very mild way.
You choose your words carefully.
Yes, and get closer to the victim, just like you said when you are giving us a lecture, you said that you should not be rude or stand in a high position so that she'll be looking to you like you are a lecturer or you are an investigator or lawyer. You just come to their level. By coming close is that you sit in an opposite position with her, close that she can hear you and you can hear her, so that it will give her a sense of privacy and comfort.
Yeah.
I think
and also because just imagine that you are seated far and they are narrating something and you now be doing she will be saying something over and over again, like narrating a sensitive thing, making her repeat it.
It will show that you are not serious. Yeah. Yes. And the last but not the least is you have to be polite. Politeness in terms of communication, in terms of understanding, everything that you have to say or do in your action has to be polite. So I think this is what we have considered in the techniques. And our story today in the question 2 is it's a real life story. It happened in Kano State in Dawakin Tufa local government area, but due to some reasons we have hide some of her real name and some things, just like you guys told us. The headline says, innocent mute house girl impregnated by a medical doctor in Kano. That is the headline. And the story is started like this. We caught her in court. She said, despite tears coming down from my eyes, he still went ahead and imprisoned my both hands and did what he wanted to do, she said. This is the opening. And as we are continuing, narrating how we did, the group 4, through an interpreter, after filing the case before the court, because it is the interpreter that helped us understand what she was saying. The girl, we give her Marka, whose identity was covered, revealed to our group that one day, while sweeping the parlor at one medical doctor's residence where she worked as a housemaid with a monthly wages or remuneration of 1,000 naira monthly. And at that time, his wife was not around. The girl, who is 14-year-old with a special needy, she is mute, just had someone grabbing her at the back, just to find out it was her boss. She said, as I tried to break free from him, he grabbed me and shouted and started undressing me before he finally raped me. This is also a quotation from a statement, but the most devastating part of the story is that the case was taken to police station, later to court, and it spent about 3 years. The case is ongoing because there is one lady from our group, she says she promised after this program she will follow the case. Because the person give us this story is in the group is Malam Baba. He is the one that gives us the story and he knows them. He have their contact. She says she will follow the story. And the most disheartening thing is that there is nothing, no action taken against this medical doctor. He worked with the hospital there and the local government working to her. He was just transferred to another hospital. That's the end of the case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 4, right? Okay, so what's the
digital group, electronic group.
Okay, it's not on yet. This one.
So time.
Yeah, he's explaining the time. Which time? It's our time. These are Uncle time. Uncle? Yes, for presentation.
Okay, so let's
3 minutes, Uncle.
No, come on, close the story first.
Okay, let me close the story before you.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Steve. I'm from Group 3. So basically, just tell you about this before with our story. These are some of the elements we brought out. The first one, inform the survivor about the story, so let them know everything about it. Seek their consent for audio or video recording. Make them feel very comfortable, right? And then we just ask unnecessary questions. We have empathy for them and avoid questions that seem to blame the survivor. And then do not interrupt. So we have a beautiful written story, although it's a concocted story, but we have all the elements here. So I'd like you to, can you like turn off the light? Can you like turn off the light? Or yes, turn off the light. Please turn off the light. It's a very, very, very interesting story. Yeah, I'd like to just turn the light.
Secretary, please help us switch off the light at the back there.
This is cinema. You really enjoy the story because we all came together. And it's different, like very, very different. Good. So while we read, please, while we read, follow the story. So
we title our story "When Dreams Don't Come True." The Chronicle of Talatu. Part 1. So please, we'll be featuring this story on our blog site so you can follow it. We'll continue. 12-year-old Talatu Sambo, not the real name, a resident of a village, Gorozo local government, Kano. Always dream of becoming a medical doctor at the prestigious Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital. She would always love to assist the veterinarian inject the goats in her compound whenever any fell ill. The level of passion she had for medicine was immense, that everyone in her neighborhood had high hopes for her. On a humid night, when Talatu's parents were discussing, she wore a makeshift lab coat, dancing around the lantern that lit her parents' room, because her parents finally got the money to pay for her excursion to AKTH.
Okay.
Malam Gambo Tanko, a friend of the family, came to visit and told her parents of a scholarship program of Talatu in Saudi Arabia, which they agreed and processed her visa and other travel documents. Which gladdened Talatu. 9 years down the line, Talatu still isn't a doctor, neither is she in the medical line. She has now become a domestic worker who passed through a series of harrowing experiences in the hands of her various employers and had to constantly do whatever it takes over the years to pay her trafficker and survive in Saudi. With tears rolling down her cheeks, she told Group 3, our group, that she ended up being sexually harassed by the husband and son of a certain person she worked for. On a certain night, she narrated that she was beaten. I was beaten, this Talatu talking, severally to the point that I fainted. I was beaten because I refused to allow him, Khalifa, the son of our employer, take advantage of me. It got so bad that he used a golf stick to hit my head and I passed out. It was when I got to the hospital that I was able to confide in a Nigerian doctor who aided my escape back to Nigeria through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I was then transferred to NAPTIP, who helped me return to Nigeria. Section 3 of the Nigerian Child Rights Act of 2003 states that individuals caught in the act of trafficking persons illegally abroad face 10 years imprisonment.
Master, I just wanted to say that I like the fact that they added this part, because remember what I was saying about painting a bigger picture and not just narrowing it to one person's experience. He talked about the girl who was going to be a medical doctor but was trafficked. He talked about her story, and then they now came here. You remember what I said about research? What are the available laws saying about it? It's good that they mentioned NAPTIP. NAPTIP is responsible for this type of case. So they mentioned what the Child Rights Act of 2003 is saying about that. So that's a nice one.
No, we are still waiting.
Yeah.
Wait, just wait.
We are just doing it.
Individuals caught in the act of trafficking persons illegally abroad will face 10 years imprisonment. Also, the Violence Against Persons Law of Saudi Arabia states that perpetrators of rape and other sexual violence face 50 years in jail with hard labor. In an interview with Kano Sadiq, the director of NAPTIP in Kano, stated that Talatu State will be followed to the end and ensure that trafficker Gambo Tanko is arrested and prosecuted. He also assured that NAPTIP will follow up the case in collaboration with FORMWAN and the Saudi Embassy in Nigeria to ensure that Khalifa and his father, as well as other perpetrators, are prosecuted. Thank you.
On the light. On it.
Group 3.
Thank you.
This is Group 3.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Cock. Take your cock. I told you earlier, if it's to say I saw you even once in the morning.
So there was something that between these that
What can we present it from our home?
So as I was saying, remember one of the best practices and then the techniques I said that I spoke about was that you should not narrow your reporting to speak to the bigger picture. What is the okay in their story now? One house, please, everybody pay attention. In the story that the three just presented, what was the main topic? What was the theme? What was the form of SDB that they were addressing? I don't think anybody was paying attention, and it's really bad. I'm asking, they just read out a story right now. From the story that they read out, what form of sexual and gender-based violence did they address? Thank you. That was what I was asking. Good. So instead of them to focus on that girl's story about how she was trafficked to Saudi, what did they do? They now presented a picture about how it's a big issue, and then they also stated what the Child Rights Act had to say about it. And they also reached out to someone from NAPTIP. Was it NAPTIP? They also reached out from to speak on it. So that's what you should do. If you are writing an actual story, you have to reach out to the authorities. This is what happened. What are you doing about it? What have you been able to do about it? Stuff like that. It's really important. So let's hear from this group. Thank you.
Who can present?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aisha Ahmed, and I will be presenting for Group B. Along with best practices that we enlisted, The first one we came up with was empathy. So, I see that
Continue.
So it's empathy. When writing the story, we try to empathize with the survivor or the victim as the case may be. Then the second one we came up with was, don't remove a part where a survivor admits to retaliation. The better one is self-defense. And self-defense is admissible everywhere. Now the point of putting self-defense in there in your write-up is it gives other victims, or still victims, the power to know that I can protect myself in some way. And it doesn't mean that I'm pathetic.
Yes, thank you.
And the next one we have is, do not be intrusive. Some questions are too personal at the beginning of interviews. They may come up later, but it shouldn't be the lead when we're trying to get a story. Then we have, don't interrupt when the survivor keeps mute or is thinking of what to say. Now, some experiences are very traumatic. When people are talking, sometimes they are reliving the experience, so they need to pause and take a breather. So in cases like that, you're supposed to let the victim or survivor take his or her time before they get back on their feet to tell you the whole story. And then we have, do not interrupt when the survivor is narrating the happening. Unlike other interviews where you try to get follow-ups as fast as possible, in telling this story, you let the person talk, because they are telling you their part, what happened to them. You don't need follow-up in those cases. You just need to listen to them, so you don't have to interrupt. And number 6 is, don't be narrow in writing SGBV stories. And the story of one person is the story of a million persons. So when you're writing a story, you try to enlarge it. After humanizing it to a particular person, you say you show it in a way that this is the story of a million people who are yet to come up to speak up on their experiences. Then the last one we have is, don't speak to persons close to the perpetrator. Now some of these cases happen in our areas, close to our homes. So you should not ask parents of perpetrators, families, or friends, because they are always going to love their own person, and they're not going to tell you what is wrong with their own person. This is what we came up with for the best practices. Then we have our story.
It's so amazing. I like your explanation. They're on point. Yeah.
Then
everybody's clapping for their own group.
Okay. This was group A.
Every group like clapping for their own group. Yes, I like her explanation.
So our story is a bit our story is not trying to come up, so I'm going to use my phone. And the title we have for it is, how girls face near-death experiences from their mistresses. Fatima, not her real name. Sorry. A girl of about 13 years kept staring at her feet, pressing her lips together as if trying not to scream. She looked up and tried to smile, but it was not forthcoming. The first words she uttered were, I did not do it. I did not take her money. I do not like smiling. A house help, like some others her age, brought to the township to work. Fatima stayed with a newly wedded couple in the metropolis. Her hands and legs battered with red lines from beatings she said she received day and night. This time, she was picked up by a neighbor to the hospital, and then the NSCDC were called. Fatima told me that the bride, her mistress, accuses her of taking her money and trying to entice her husband. She reported that Auntie will always say I'm from the village, but we are wiser than our age. She would shout at me, beat me, and accuse me of stealing her money and food. The young girl scooped back tears, trying to recollect what led to the office of the security, what led her to being at the office of the security. Last night, she came back when I was taking water to Yaya. He said he wanted to take Panadol. She came in and started saying that I'm going to entice her husband. She removed her shoes and threw it at me. She slapped me. Yaya tried to stop her, but she said he was trying to protect me. Then she went into her room angrily and I thought she would never come out again. But when she came out, she was holding a hot iron. She pressed it on my thighs again and again and again until I stopped screaming, Fatima narrates. At this part, Fatima visibly began to shake like dried leaves on a windy day. She cried for a while and then looked up again. She said, I had Yaya and some people shouting. Then I woke up at the hospital. Because it was brief, this is where we stopped at our story.
Thank you. I like the beginning of the story. Sorry?
No, he said, and the end of the story.
So, thank you so much, Group B. That was nice. Both the best practices and this one. That was nice. I've been noting down things from everybody's presentation. So I wanted to address it individually, but that's going to take a lot of time. I will sleep here today. So I've been noting them from the first people to you people. So we're going to do it generally. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Is this the last group?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Akwai guntaye.
So, and finally,
Please, let's quickly sit so we can finish off.
So while you people are presenting, I was taking